Hello, hello. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let me know if you can see me okay, if you can hear me okay. I have never gone live from my phone to YouTube using the lovely StreamYard app that I've heard so many good things about. I should be able to see your comments as they come in. Just very happy that today turned out to be nice enough outside for me to do this outside. You guys can hear the lovely nature sounds and our little wind chime back there, but hopefully you can hear me okay. So let me know in the comments if you're joining in. I just left from over on Instagram, so if you've been following me on Instagram, this is where I'm going to start doing my Tip Tuesdays starting today. Today may not be, it's not actually a Tip Tuesday. Hello, Michelle. Michelle's Mosaics and More. Ooh, mosaics. That's awesome. Yes, welcome, welcome. So today will not be a Tip Tuesday. Hi, Stephanie. This will be more of just to get to know me. So you can ask me any questions that you would like, but I just wanted to give everyone a little background on me because this is my first time, like I said, going live on YouTube. I know that it's a different group of people in some cases. You know, there are people who maybe just subscribe to my channel but don't have Instagram or haven't been following me on Instagram for a long time and don't know as much about my journey and my background with Pink Sheep and as a maker. Good morning, Ellen. Thanks for joining. But yes, you always wonder when you go live for the first time on YouTube. I'm like, I don't know if anyone's even going to show up, but we have to try it, right? You know, it's if you can't show up for just a couple of people, then what are you going to do if you do have lots of followers and lots of people? You know, you just have to, you got to show up. So here I am. So yes, let me know if you've got your coffee. I know that it's almost noon, but this is the second cup for me. It's been a busy morning, busy Tuesday. So yeah, and let me know if you're working on anything fun. I have a couple of patterns that are supposed to be coming out soon, so that's on my plate this week. I'm working on getting 2 patterns ready for release. I have my first big tote bag, so really big tote bag that I'm getting ready to release next week or this week, maybe, if I can get it completed. And then I also have a new summer bucket hat pattern that I'm really excited about. And hello, Nancy, have your coffee and crocheting a blanket. Oh, good for you, because I actually had someone back when I was selling finished products. I had someone local who hired me to make, I think, like 5 blankets total. And don't get me wrong, it was good money. They were very nice. They let me take my time. But man, like after 5 blankets, I think that I'm done with blankets for a couple of years, maybe, just because they take so long. But good. Let me know what kind of yarn you're using for your blanket. Is this like a teeny tiny blanket or is it a chunky blanket? And Michelle, coffee and a mosaic. Looking for yarn for the morning wrap. Oh, for the meditation wrap? Is that one of my wraps, maybe, Michelle? Good morning, Carol. The Larkberries making a mushroom hat. That's amazing. Is it your own pattern? Are you making it up as you go along? I would love to know. That's fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Again, my name is Evelyn, aka the Pink Sheep, the maker behind Pink Sheep Design. And I decided to move my Tip Tuesdays that I was doing live on Instagram here to YouTube, just to diversify a little bit, to be a little more accessible for people who are not on Instagram. So that you guys can get to know me a little better, and you know, especially if you're already subscribed to my channel. Let's see, got a couple of people chatting. But yes, I just wanted to introduce myself and let you guys know a little about me. So you can ask me questions throughout this process. I'm going to try to stay up to date with the chat. Let's see, before I start. Nancy, I'm addicted to blankets. I'm on my 15th one. Oh my gosh. And are they big blankets? Are they like queen size blankets or these like lap blankets? And you only started crocheting in December. That's fantastic. So a 5-weight, that's not too bad. It's not like you're doing, you know, a 2 or 3-weight blanket. I couldn't even imagine. And the Lark Fairies is making a variation of the crochet verse Twisted Witch Hat. That's awesome. I've seen those and those are fantastic. She has some amazing patterns. And Carol is working on a chunky scrap blanket. Fantastic. Baby and Lapgans. Okay. That's a little bit better. It's not like you're making king size blankets. I couldn't do it. So let's start at the beginning. I learned how to crochet in high school. So I am very thankful that I had an art teacher that wanted to have that as part of the curriculum. So I learned how to knit and crochet in high school. I would actually get in trouble once I learned. I was addicted pretty quickly, and I would bring it to my classes and try to hide it under my desk. Trying to crochet in class. Teachers didn't like that very much. But, you know, I really, really enjoyed it. And honestly, it was one of the ways that I felt like I could be creative because I grew up in a household with a lot of artists, a family, not just the household, but my grandmothers, both grandmothers on both sides. So my mom's mom and my dad's mom were oil painters, and very good ones at that. So we actually have lots and lots of art in our home that were painted by both sides, grandmothers on both sides. And I wanted to be an artist. Like, I wanted to be able to paint. I wanted to be able to draw. And I would spend so much time in the art room in high school. Like, my lunch breaks I took in the art room. As long as if I could take a break and it could be in the art room, I was in there. And I would practice sketching, and I would, you know, tried sculpting, and you know, it was okay. I was pretty good at copying things. So like if I had a picture to look at, I could sketch that out. Or if I was looking at a person, I would do like the side profile views, and people thought those were good, but nothing ever clicked, you know, and especially with painting, nothing ever felt good enough for me to consider it finished. And I don't know if you guys have had that problem. It's kind of that perfectionism side of things, where I would look at it and I would say, I guess it's done, but I'm just not happy with it. And that's something that I never really had with crochet. So it's fantastic because I don't have that real perfectionism side of me coming out and saying, well, that's not good enough. You need to redo it. It happens every now and then, but it's not pervasive through the whole process like it was when I was trying to sketch and paint and sculpt and do all of those other things. The other thing that I really, really loved growing up was photography. So I got my first camera I think it was given to me in middle school, and I wasn't really able to start using it until high school. But I fell in love with photography. I had the eye, you know, I could frame a picture naturally. I loved portraiture. I loved taking pictures of my fellow classmates, especially the ones who maybe weren't going to be able to get any senior photos done. So I would take their senior photos, and that was on film. So that was a 35 millimeter DSLR camera. And honestly, it was really college that just kind of knocked all of the creative out of me. You know, and I know that seems to happen, sadly. You know, I didn't go into a creative field of study in college. And thank you, Nancy. Love your work and you inspire me to try chunky. Yes, and we will definitely be talking about that today, about chunky yarn. But yeah, so I went to college. I majored in biology. Actually, I started with psychology. I majored in psychology, added a biology major. Still didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I went back and forth, and you know, looked at different options and thought maybe I could get a PhD. You know, that was actually in my mindset because I found out that my grandmother on my mom's side had gotten her PhD in education. My dad had a master's degree. So that drive to go through the continuing education process in the higher ed system was kind of, you know, baked in there from when I was younger. I wanted to be like my parents, like my dad, like my grandmother. And I think also because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life career-wise, it kind of felt like the only option of like, well, I'll just stay in school, you know? And I think there are a lot of people who who do that same thing. Like maybe I'll figure it out as I go. If I stay in school long enough, I'll figure out what I want to do with my life. And so I ended up going to grad school. I did 2 years in grad school in 2 different programs. One was exercise physiology, which I hated. I was in a lab. This was at Auburn University, working with athletes, and it just wasn't my thing. That was actually when my now husband, the captain, moved in with me and told me, you know, it really, really gave me that permission, I would say, you know, because a lot of times it's like you need someone else to tell you what you're not willing to tell yourself. And he said, you know, you don't have to be miserable. You know, I was so miserable in this program, feeling like I didn't have a choice, like I had to go to school because what else is I going to do with my life? And he said, you know, you don't have to do that. You can do something else. You always have a choice. You can always do something different. And that was new for me to have someone say that, because I wasn't going to be willing to say that to myself. And so at that time I left the program and I really just kind of did whatever. I took two different kind of random jobs. I went back to, I had coached gymnastics for a long time. So I went back to coaching at a dance studio and working at this little boutique. And it was actually when I started working at the boutique, and this had to have been maybe 2010, 2011, that I started crocheting again. So I picked my hooks up, I picked the needles back up, crocheting and knitting at this point. And this was the first time that I sold some of my work. So this little boutique that I was working at, it was right down, it was in a little strip mall, and the dance studio was right next to it. So I would literally, you know, go from working at the dance studio to working at the boutique. And the lady at the boutique was so sweet. And she was like, if you want to sell some of your work, you should sell some of your work in the shop. And that was kind of that first, like, okay, you know, people might actually want to buy what I'm making. And I have to say, it was interesting. I don't know if anyone has done this. You know, I had taken such a hiatus from crocheting since high school that it was not like riding a bike. Thank goodness for YouTube, because I really struggled to figure out, I couldn't figure out how to cast on with the knitting, you know. So that took some time to get back into the swing of things and getting back comfortable with feeling natural crocheting and knitting again. And I was selling these little, like, you know, brooch, like the little roses with a little pin on the back, like a little rose pin, some little slippers, I think maybe some headbands, but it was small things, you know, and just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. But most of it, even at that time, most of what I was making used at least a size 5 yarn. I remember having a lot of homespun and using that for slippers and things like that. Little headbands. And I remember those big headbands with the big rose on there. Virginia, I was also very huge into photography for some years. I miss it so much. Turned out my eyes were giving me trouble. Might be somehow my love for crochet could help me inspire to pull my DSLRs out. Yes. So that's what was interesting. I spent that time at the boutique, and it was within that same year that my husband and I got married. And we moved from Auburn to Birmingham. He grew up in Birmingham, and his family still lives there. And so moved back to Birmingham. At this time, I was still thinking, you know, I need to do something with my life. I need to go back to school. So I found a graduate program in health education, a little more community based, which that was my thing. I didn't want to be stuck in a lab. I wanted to do something in the community. I wanted to feel like I was making a difference, actually helping people one-on-one. And so it seemed like a good fit, and I put my crochet down again at this point, crochet and photography. And went back to school, and, you know, it was definitely a better program. But at that point, it was the student debt that felt a little overwhelming. And I didn't want to be in a situation where I was 4 years in with piles of debt. And this was, you know, our marriage was new. You know, I really didn't want that for us. I didn't want us to have that debt hanging over our heads. And so at that point, I started looking for what I would have considered my first big girl job. I wanted to find something that was like a salaried position that had, you know, health benefits, and something that would really launch us into that next step for having that comfort level for both of us, because he had always worked really good jobs, stable jobs, difficult jobs, but I wanted to be able to help. And so that was when I started applying for jobs. And at this time in the fitness industry, I got a job at Emory, which took us to Atlanta. So that's where we are now. We're just south of Atlanta. And it wasn't until 2015 that I picked up the crocheting and knitting again. And Nancy asked, do you still knit? I started loom knitting last summer and went to knitting needles and then crocheting. That helped me because I always wanted to crochet and finally got it. Yes. So I don't knit now, but that was a change that happened really just in the past couple of years, because I always kind of would knit a little bit, but it was never my main thing. I'm in Georgia too. Oh, that's so cool. Right outside of Augusta. Yeah, we're about an hour outside of Atlanta. But yeah, so moved to Atlanta. I started crocheting and knitting again in 2015. And this was again the time when I started to sell items. So I was still at Emory, and I had people who were asking me, do you sell those? You sell scarves, and I want to buy these for my family. At this time, I still I don't think I had an Etsy shop or anything like that. It was just kind of, I would meet them in person and they would pay me in person, and there would be that handoff of, the scarf or, the hat or whatever it was. I still wasn't doing craft shows. At this point, I hadn't done a craft show. And it wasn't until the end of 2015, and it may have been 2016, that I actually left my full-time job and started freelancing for the first time. Yeah, so working for myself. And at this time, the captain was still working, Matt was still working. And so I decided I was going to focus on craft shows, selling finished products, and my photography. So for 2 years, I actually spent that time, started figuring out craft shows here in Atlanta. I would go to anywhere from 10 to 12 craft shows a year, which was a lot. I'll have to do an entire video about craft shows for anyone who's interested in them, just my experience with them, and what was worth it, what wasn't, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a big investment. If you're going to do it, you have to make sure that you have the inventory and that you plan ahead and you have everything you need. And so for about those 2 years I did, and maybe 3 years, I think I did craft shows for 3 years, where it was about 10 to 12 shows a year, starting in the end of October. So right around the Halloween weekend, I would start the craft shows, and then every single weekend until Christmas, I would do a craft show. And so that was a lot of wear and tear on my body, because, if you've done craft shows or if you only sell finished product, how difficult that can be. If you're not careful and you don't listen to your body, it's very easy to get overuse injuries, injuries that you can't fix, things like arthritis and issues like that. And so for me, that was really kind of the telltale sign that I needed to make a change in the business. And actually at that time, I started to focus more on my photography. At that point, I had done weddings, I had done engagements, never a ton. It was never my goal to be a full-time photographer. I really didn't want the stress, especially not of being a wedding photographer. But I did really enjoy, again, portraiture. And so it made sense that if I could mesh my two interests, not just taking photos for myself, for my products, but finding a way to provide a service to other local artists and makers. And that's really when you started hearing that buzzword of brand photography. And so that was my focus. I wanted to be a brand photographer. I wanted to help small businesses. I wanted to help makers and artists and people who needed good photos for their website, for social media, for marketing materials, for shows. When you apply to a show, you have to have really good photography so that your work stands out, and they're more likely to choose you for the show. And so that was actually my focus for probably the last year that I was not working full time. I was working freelancing for myself, and it took off a bit to the point where I was like, this might really work, but it was a lot of hustling. It was a lot of cold emails, email and calling local businesses, just saying, hey, this is what I offer. Are you interested? Could you utilize this kind of service? And I got some really great clients, and I got some great return clients, people who wanted me to come back pretty often to do those. But at that time, I felt like I was ready to try and go back to more of like a 9-to-5 kind of job in a different field. So I did not want to go back into the fitness industry. And at this time, I had realized how much I enjoyed social media and the photography and small business and all of that. And so I started kind of just keeping my eye out for, job opportunities. And that's when I found the job with Professional Photographers of America, which is where the job that I just left, because I'm working full-time now again, but it's very different this time. So I think for about 2 years, I worked full-time managing all the social media for PPA. And that was wonderful. I mean, I learned a ton just about social media management, about working with other artists and supporting them, the community side of things, graphic design, some of those additional things that I needed to learn more about. And but I knew when COVID happened and everything kind of went into lockdown, we really locked down. So we made that decision to not go out, and we just went out to get our groceries and being as careful as possible. And honestly, that was when my Instagram feed really saw tremendous growth. And I know some of it is more people were online, more people were on social media looking for that connection. But I was able to give a little more focus to my social media feed, to my patterns, to my community. And I think that made a huge difference. And I think also I had really, because I was working at PPA and because I was listening to all of these things about marketing and social media marketing and all of these techniques for building your brand the right way, I really started to niche down and realize what I wanted to do with Pink Sheep Design and the direction that I wanted the brand to go in. And I think a lot of people are scared to find a niche because you feel like, well, if I only do this one thing, then I'm missing out on all of these other opportunities. But in reality, you're able to better focus in on what you really, really want to do. And it's easier to sell because you love it and you're focused, and you kind of have this filter that you can run things through of like, does this really fit what I want to be doing? And so I think that was a part of it too. And when I was working at PPA in the office before we moved to remote work, I was commuting anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours one way every day. And so coming back and working remote and having anywhere from 3 to 4 hours added back into my day gave me a lot of time to start thinking about Pink Sheep and what that was turning into and what that could possibly be. And it made a huge difference. It gave me a lot of freedom to play around with things and to really crowdsource and talk to the community, the people that were already following me, and find out what kind of things that they were looking for and the kind of things they would enjoy and appreciate and utilize and feel were valuable. And so when COVID restrictions started lifting, our office started talking about going back to work, and they were not flexible at all. It's PPA was very, you need to be in the office 9 hours a day. And I just wasn't feeling it, you guys, being home and having that freedom and really feeling like, and I think a lot of you guys can understand this too, that, even if you feel like your job is more stable because you're in a salaried position, there's that frustration of like, you might have weeks where you work ridiculously hard, and you overwork yourself and you work long hours. You don't make more money, when you do that. And I think for me, knowing that making the switch and doing this full time, I would, if I put in that effort and I worked harder, some weeks than others, I knew that was an opportunity for me to actually see that come back in a positive way. So I left PPA. I think it's been maybe a month now since I put in my 2 weeks notice. And you guys, it's been crazy. It's been crazy. I feel busier now than than I have in a really long time. You know, I have all of these grand schemes and plans and dreams and brainstorms, and I feel like I actually have the time to consider them and potentially make them a reality, which is really exciting. And a part of that is, you know, doing more on YouTube and doing more lives, and really just getting the chance to connect with you guys and chat with you guys. And that's been really important for me. You know, I really started diving into Instagram Live, and that's been, you know, a great opportunity to just check in with everyone. Hello, Nicole, popping in during my lunch break. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this community, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I hope you do, but I feel like this crochet community it's one of the most supportive communities I've ever been a part of. You know, I think that there have been so many times when, you know, I might worry that a pattern is not going to be good enough, or a design, you know, is going to flop, or I don't know, any of those things that we get in our head, and the negative Nancy's, you know, in our own head, saying that things aren't good enough or ready to be released. And this community has always been so supportive of just like, no, you've got this. This is great, you know, and it's very empowering, I think. Yes, Ellen, time does fly. I agree. It's crazy to think that, you know, that it has been as long as it has already since I left my job. But now it's like, this is great. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, I have so many ideas, and, you know, it's really exciting. So, but yeah, if you guys are listening in, thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe if you like my videos. I am trying to grow my channel so that I can start offering more and more content, more free pattern tutorials. That's part of my goal for this coming fall. And let me know if you have any questions for me. If you're tuning in, and you know, I kind of gave you guys the short story of how I got where I am and where I started. But I will talk a little bit about my transition from selling finished products to where I am now, which I don't sell any finished products, not crochet products, that is. So when I was going to shows, I mean, I would probably make at least 500 items a year. I mean, it had to be more than that. Thinking about how many shows I had to go to, I have to have kept count somewhere, but that was a lot. And when I found out that I had arthritis forming in my neck, that was when I said, you know, there's no way that I can keep doing this. I can't keep working myself to death trying to make all of this product. And you know, yes, the money was good going to these shows, but it wasn't really worth it. And Kathy said, getting a very pixelated image right now. Is anyone else? Just wondering about the connection. It's possible. I'm downstairs on my porch. So it's possible that maybe the connection isn't that great. I hope you guys can still hear me. We'll see. Goes in and out. Yeah. I may have to move upstairs the next time that I do this so that I'm a little closer to the connection, or maybe just not be on Wi-Fi. I can try just to do 4G next time. But yeah, so I started off selling finished product, and when the pandemic hit, you know, it had already been 2 years where something had come up and I wasn't able to go to shows, you know. So I actually have like 3 Tupperware bins in an upstairs closet full of hats and scarves and headbands and all these things that I'd made for shows. And I'm like, one of these days I'm going to have to go to like one more last hurrah to try to sell all of this stuff, because I had just stored it hoping that maybe next, you know, the next season or the next season I could go. And I'm glad that you can hear me, Nancy. Thank you for letting me know. So yeah, when the pandemic hit, I realized, okay, I think it's just time for me to rethink this completely, because I did not do well selling finished products online. I had next to no sales. that last holiday season, when I was like, okay, well, let me just put everything in my Etsy shop. I took really good photos of all the different color items that I had, all of the different products that I had. The Etsy shop looked great. I was really excited. I was proud of it. I felt like, you know, I have to make some sales. I maybe sold like 3 or 4 things. So that was, you know, wah, wah, that was a letdown. But it was time to pivot. It was time to do something else. And that was really that was a pivot moment for everybody. I mean, most people, especially if you own a small business, or if you're working for yourself, or if you have like a side hustle or something, it was time to rethink it and really think outside the box and brainstorm. And so for me, it actually started with the captain buying a drone. So he wanted to start a drone business. He wanted to start flying drones for like real estate or cell towers or construction sites, things like that. And he had to get an iPad, or chose to get an iPad, because it was going to be easier to control the drone from the iPad. And he asked me if I wanted to use the iPad for anything else for me, because I had never wanted an iPad for any reason. And I said, well, you know, I've heard of this app called Procreate, you know, the drawing app. You guys haven't heard of Procreate? It's a drawing app and a you know, inking and sketching and art app. And it's only available on iPads. And so I said, well, I would love to try Procreate. So he downloaded Procreate, and we purchased one of the Apple pencils. And I went to town and I started making designs and playing around with ideas. And again, like I said earlier in the video, I never felt like an artist. I always struggled with finding a style as an artist. But Procreate made it really easy, because I could find, you know, kind of starting shapes and go from there. I didn't have to freehand everything. And it's very bold lines, because I wanted to create something for like a sticker. And so I didn't have to get all artsy fartsy. You know, I could be very specific with the lines. And then I found out that Adobe Capture, which is a free app that you can get on the iPad and even on your phone, it would allow me to upload like my drawing, and it smoothed out all the lines for me. So that was extremely helpful for me, being that perfectionist was come into play of like, this isn't straight enough. This doesn't look clean enough to go on a sticker or on apparel. And I released my first sticker, which was the Hooker tarot card. And honestly, thinking back, I don't remember what inspired it. I don't know if I was just searching for crochet stickers and felt like that was something that didn't exist and that needed to. But it was a hit. People really, really liked it. And it really made me feel like, okay, this is cool. This is exciting. You know, it was a lot of work for me to try to draw, because like I said, it doesn't really come naturally to me, and it takes some work for me to get designs right. But I really, really enjoyed the process of the sketching and the drawing, and coloring it in, and then, you know, creating the sticker proof. And the stickers sold, and people seemed to really like them. Actually, I had a couple of times where they sold out when I first released them, and I had to order more immediately. So that was really fun. But honestly, that was my moment when I said, okay, I think I'm onto something here. At that time, I had only released a couple of patterns, and I had started really looking into creating more patterns, especially, like I said, when the pandemic hit. And I was having to say, okay, what can I do with some of this extra time? If I'm going to be crocheting and I'm not selling the items, then I have to do something with them, because I can't just keep all of this stuff. And I didn't really want to give it away. I said, I need to find a way to actually make some money. And so I made the decision that if I was going to crochet something, I was going to be designing a pattern. And so since then, that's exactly what I've done. If I'm designing something, if I'm crocheting something, it is something that I plan on turning into a pattern. And that has been a really great change and process for me, to make sure that I'm, you know, staying focused and Naughty, hi Evelyn, I'm so glad you're doing this live. Thank you. And let me know, if, like I said, if you guys have questions. I'm probably just going to ramble. Usually my lives are around an hour. So, you know, I'll talk about whatever. But yeah, so I got to that point where I said I'm going to create more patterns. And if I'm going to be spending that time, and again, I couldn't crochet as much because of the arthritis in my neck and because of some of the other issues that I have with pain in my wrists and hands and all of that. That my crochet time became even more precious because I couldn't do it as much. And it made it really easy to say no when people asked me, because I have had requests from people who want me to make them finished products. And it's a lot easier for me to say no because I just can't. I can't spend the little bit of time that I am able to crochet comfortably without any kind of pain. Making something for someone that may or may not really be paying what it's worth, because I know I would run into that a lot as well. And I'll still make gifts. I've made a couple of gifts since all of this started, but I have to really like you to make, to make you a crochet present, because like I said, it you know, it has made it a lot more worthwhile for me to either make it for myself so that I'm actually making things for me and cherishing those items, or making a pattern that then I get to see all of these amazing people putting their spin on it and making it their own, which is amazing. Virginia, I'm writing myself a note now. I'm shopping for something with your crochet tarot on it. I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. The support has been amazing, and you guys are all just amazing people. So yeah, so I stopped selling finished products, started focusing on patterns, started focusing on designs, using Procreate, loving it. Started making more stickers. I think I'm up to maybe 10 to 15 sticker designs that I have right now in my Etsy shop. And if you want to check out any of my stuff, I did put links in my description. So if you want to check out my Etsy shop, I have an apparel shop that's separate. It's through a shop called Bonfire. And Bonfire is amazing. And I'm going to do a whole video about them as well for additional income for people who are makers and just need that extra income, that doesn't take work because I don't have to hold my own inventory. But Bonfire sells in batches. So a campaign, which would be like, let's say the Hooker tarot card campaign, has all these different options. So within one campaign, you've got tank tops and t-shirts and hoodies and sweatshirts and all of that all in one campaign. And that campaign stays open for 5 days. And that's when you can make your orders. And then when it closes, everything ordered during that 5 days gets shipped out to the people who purchase them. What's great about that is it keeps the costs down. So like my Hooker tarot card shirts are $20, which I think is amazing because I can still make some money off of it, but it's affordable. So, you know, people don't feel like they're going to have to spend $35 on a shirt, and they're good material. They're good premium items. So that link's in my bio. You can check out my patterns, all that fun stuff. But yeah, and I actually have, let's see, I do have some stickers I can show you if you guys have never seen them. I use Sticker Mule, which is also amazing if you've ever wanted to buy stickers, because their quality is top notch. So the stickers that Sticker Mule prints are just, they're thick and nice. But this is the Hooker tarot card sticker that I've got. So it's about 3 inches tall. But that was my original design. That's the first one I released, which is amazing. And then this is a new one. So this is Keep Crochet Weird. It's a holographic sticker. So those are kind of fun. I usually wait till those go on sale because they're a little more expensive than the other ones. And I had one more that I can show you guys. This was a new one that I did that was a little different than my normal branding. It says Death Before Knitting. So my knitters, I'm sorry, I promise, no hate to my knitters. But this was such a fun design because I used the shape of the crochet hooks that we 3D print. So it was a very personal design for me to be able to work those in. So that was a fun one for me. But stickers have been, that was a big part of that change from not selling finished products and creating more items for other crocheters, like the patterns and that kind of merchandise. That was fun. So let me check, because I have a couple of comments. I love that you want people to put their own spin on your designs. Yes, so I'm going to talk about that too in a minute, because I want to talk about my patterns with you guys a little bit and just kind of the thought behind them. And oh, is that one of, I didn't mean to pop that up there, but yes, this is one of my hoodies. This is my not safe for work hoodie. It says F off, I'm crocheting. I also have that one in the knitting version as a sticker, but I only have the crocheting version right now in my Etsy shop. I mean, in my bonfire shop. So my apparel shop has this one. It always cracks me up. People really seem to like that one. And naughty. So this is one. Let's show this one. Do I have any stretches? Yes, I actually have a YouTube video here on my channel. I can't remember if it's in a playlist or not, but that one is on my YouTube channel, and it says, like, I think it just says stretches for crocheters or makers or something. But it goes through like the neck stretches that I do, especially because of my arthritis. There are specific stretches that I'll do to help strengthen the muscles in my neck to support better. I go through just, shoulders, wrists, arms, that kind of thing. Can you post the link? Oh, Ellen, can you post the link? Yes, Ellen, if you can find it, that'd be awesome. Let's see. Oh, and Ellen, you beat me to it. I'm telling you, Ellen is the best. I mean, come on. Always faster than me at answering my own questions. Let's see. Yeah, so let's talk about this one really quick. Oh, and I just saw this too. Naughty. Oh, and you were talking about the okay. Here we go. I'm going to show this one. So I'll talk a little bit about my patterns. I hated patterns. That started from the very beginning. My grandmother bought me a sewing machine when I was in high school, I think. And I loved having a sewing machine, but I hated following patterns. I didn't want to follow a pattern. I just wanted to wing it. I wanted to do it my way, because I felt like when I put myself in that box and had to follow the pattern, that I couldn't always get it just right, and then I would just get frustrated. And so I didn't want to be frustrated. I just wanted to have fun. And let me take this down while oh yeah. So I decided, well, it was the same way with crochet patterns. I would purchase a pattern. It was a crochet pattern or a knitting pattern. And if it didn't turn out just like the item, I would just get frustrated. So I was the same way that I was with sewing, where I just wanted to wing it. And that was, so in college, I had my sewing machine, brought my sewing machine to college, and we had some kind of formal, and I made my own dress. So I went to Walmart and I bought this like really pretty maroon floral fabric, and I just kind of draped it and pinned it and then sewed it up. It had a train. It had a little corset kind of thing on the back to hold, like with crochet items where you just put a corset in there and then it actually kind of form fits by itself. But yeah, I just did it, totally winged it and loved it. And I really took that approach to my crocheting as I started just winging it. If I wanted to make something for me, then I would wing it and make it fit me. And from there, it was just the process of growing as a designer to the point where I could make it work for other people too. And so I really wanted to make, I think I already lit. I'm trying to learn how to use this as well, putting these comments up here. But yeah, so I wanted to make patterns that maybe people who get frustrated with patterns might actually enjoy. And the way that I wanted to do that was to make my patterns really, really simple. So I wanted to create patterns that were super beginner friendly, that had lots of photos, because that was something that I felt, the few patterns that I really did enjoy, that I followed as a maker, as someone who was following the patterns, not as a designer, were the ones that had lots of photos, that had lots of helpful hints and tips and tricks, maybe a little bit of video support, not an entire tutorial. I didn't like watching those either because I felt like I was having to kind of fast forward through parts. So I was not a video person. But I wanted to mimic all of the things that I loved about the patterns that I did enjoy in my own patterns. And so, oh, Ellen can't post the link. Yes, just search stretch or stretching on my YouTube channel and see if you can find it, because it's up there for sure somewhere. And I may have a stretching playlist. I think I might have like a wellness or stretching playlist, and it would be in there. But yeah, so my goal for my patterns, and it really stemmed back to when I first started Pink Sheep Design and I was selling finished products. I wanted my products to be really functional. I didn't want them to just be pretty. I still wanted them to be pretty, but I live for comfort. Like when I'm wearing items myself, I have to be super comfortable. And I wanted to emulate that in my patterns. I wanted the things, and not just my patterns, my products. So I wanted my products to be stylish and beautiful, but I wanted them to be high quality. I wanted the focus to be on the quality and how well they were made and the attention to detail. But I also kind of wanted them to be super simple, because if you're going to shows and you're making all of this product, you need something that you can make very quickly, and that's not going to take a lot of thought once you get the pattern down. And it's more of a meditative experience. And so all of those things that I was doing as someone selling finished product really transferred beautifully into my patterns, because I wanted items to be super functional. I wanted them to actually fit. So I don't know if you've had this where you purchase a pattern and it looks really beautiful on the one person in the photos that's wearing it, but when you make it and you try to style it and wear it, it just doesn't fit. You know, it just doesn't look the same on you, or you have to like wear it in a really strange way for it to work. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted items that fit everyone, and that you know, that worked for all different sizes who tried it, and that was easy to understand. And so it started, I wrote my first pattern in 2015. That was my Rachel crop top, which is still a very big seller right now in my shop, because I think that it fits the largest size, which at that point, I was not trying to be a size inclusive designer with the idea of my sizes going from extra small to 5X. I had to really grow as a designer to get to that point, to understand grading and sizing and measurements and all of that. But I think that pattern goes up to like a 36 or a 38 double D, which for me felt like a huge win, because I am very small chested. And so the items that I made for myself, it was really difficult without a lot of help from pattern testers and friends who could try my items on for me to understand how to write a pattern that fit other people. And my patterns are never made to measure, because that was the other issue. I just wanted it to be easy to understand. I wanted to say, oh, if you're a size medium, this is how many stitches you need. This is how many rows you need. Not, well, if you're a size medium, you measure yourself and then you just do this many rows until you get to here, and then you remeasure, and then you do this. And for me, that was a frustrating experience. And some people love that. Some people love, especially as they get more experience, to just have a little bit of guidance and then they can make it themselves. But it wasn't a goal for me. And so as I continued to grow as a designer, I made my first actual true wearable with armholes. I guess that was, once it had armholes, it felt like a real wearable. And that was my pocket wrap. So it's like a vest wrap with little pockets. But that one only had 3 sizes. It was like small, medium, large, or I think it was like extra small, small, medium, large, large XL. Like those were my 3 sizes, because I was, again, still learning, you know, how to make patterns to fit other sizes correctly, you know, without just guessing that this is how much bigger this one needs to be. I believe I have revamped that pattern now. I went back and I think I added at least a 4th size, but that one I may have to totally revisit and rewrite to make it more size inclusive. Then I wrote my Indian summer cardigan, and that one I think was the same way. I think that one will need to be revisited, because I think I have 3 or 4 sizes. And it wasn't until my, well, let's see, my Luna cardigan is the one that I just now re-released as a fully size inclusive pattern. It goes from extra small to 5X. It didn't originally have that. I had to go back, rewrite it, retest it, re-release it. But that has been like my classic pattern. That's the go-to. It's so beginner friendly. It's amazing how many people have come back to me and said, you know, I've been crocheting for 50 years or 20 years, and I've never made myself a wearable item, and your Luna let me do that. So I've just been floored. It makes me so happy. You know, I think that the feedback from my patterns, it has really morphed into turning me into the designer that I wanted to be. And what I mean by that is, I want to empower people. I want people to feel like they can be creative and make these things that they might not feel like they could make before. I know that I never thought that I would be able to just make my own sweaters. And now I have like 7, 8 sweaters in my craft room that I've made and turned into patterns. And it's such a proud moment when you're making your clothes, you know, I mean, and I was proud too of making scarves and hats and gloves and things like that. And, you know, I have a couple of patterns out for accessories like hats and gloves. But man, making a sweater for yourself, like it's so gratifying. And when you get to put it on and take pictures and wear it out, you know, it's such a great feeling. And everyone should get to have that. Like, and you shouldn't have to spend 2 years on a pattern to have a sweater, you know? And so that's the other side of it. So the one side of me as a designer is functionality, beginner friendly, easy to understand, easy to follow. The other side of me as a designer is speed. I have no patience for little teeny patterns with lots of detail and detailed stitches and all of that. I never have. I like projects that I can do quickly. If I'm doing a craft project like Mod Podge, or, you know, I made this big collaged piece with comics for my husband, and I think I did it in about 3 or 4 days. And once I get over 3 or 4 days, I get a little frustrated. I get a little like, I'm kind of tired of this. And then you put it away in a closet and you don't pick it up again for 5 years, you know? So I wanted to make patterns that you could make in a couple of days. And that was especially like the Luna. I had pattern testers who made the Luna in a day. You know, if you're a really quick crocheter and you do have some experience, it's even faster. But if you're a beginner crocheter, it still might take you a week or 2 if you're having to work on it little by little and take your time. If you're having to look things up, you know, if you're having to which you really shouldn't for that one, because I use super simple stitches. You know, I think the Luna is half double crochet, and I think that's it. Like, I think that's the only stitch that you use for that one. And you only have to sew up the sides. Like, that's the only sewing that you have to do. So just cutting down on the amount of elements to the pattern, so you're not having to piece a whole bunch of stuff together. And like Ellen said earlier, the other thing is, for me, I want the people who follow my patterns to feel allowed to experiment. So my patterns are usually not written with color changes, because I just want you to have fun. Like, change colors as many times as you want, you know, play around with it, change the sleeve length. You know, I try to have little sections of the pattern that tell you where you can change things, or add length, or change the length of the sleeves, you know, or add pockets. And as I have evolved as a designer, so if you look at the Luna and then you compare it to, let's say, the overalls pattern that I released, my Romping Willow overalls pattern, I've already grown so much just in that year. So now if you buy one of my newer patterns, and you go to the end, I try to have a couple of kind of appendix pages, one of which is my measurement sizing, which is the coolest thing I think that I've ever added to my patterns. And I'm so thankful to have testers that were game to help me with it. But all of my testers take pictures wearing their items, and then they send me their measurements. And I'm able to include a photo of the tester in wearing the item. I can say what size they made, and then I have their measurements. And so it's so much easier for people to be like, oh, well, this is who I look like. This is what my body looks like. And so this is the size that I need to make. And that has been one, like I said, I'm very proud of the way that that turned out. And I'm just so thankful to have testers that make that a reality. Because I mean, I couldn't do that myself if it was just me, you know. And I've also started adding things like yarn recommendations, because, you know, a lot of people have never tried a chunky yarn and super chunky yarn, and that's all I use for my patterns. And so I've started creating this kind of additional page of recommendations. So it'll include things like substitutions that I already know would work, or yarn that my testers used. So if my testers used a certain yarn and I let them just have a ball, you know, it's like whatever yarn you want to use, as long as you match my gauge, have fun with it, you know. And so I'll include the yarn that they used. I don't have links out to things just because I know with, sorry, I have a mosquito that's flying around me. I know with how often yarn is discontinued that I didn't really want to try to have links, but it gives you a place to start, because you can go look at all these, even if it's discontinued, you can check it out, see if there are substitutions that are similar. But the other beautiful thing about super bulky yarn is that you can use smaller yarn. So most of my patterns call for a size 6, but if you can't find a size 6 that you like, or you don't want to buy a size 6, you can go find a size 5 and you can hold it double. So like I said, most of my patterns, like my Luna cardigan, I usually use, the easiest one to find is Wool Thick and Quick. For me, it's, you can find it anywhere. It's the Lion brand yarn. I have it at my local Walmarts. You know, it's just easy for me to find. So that's usually what I recommend for my patterns. But I have made a beautiful Luna out of 2 strands of homespun. So I use 2 strands of the Lion brand homespun that's a size 5, and I use my size 15 hook, and it's gorgeous. And it's actually easier to use, because I know homespun, there's people like homespun's the devil and it can be really difficult to work with. But I had one other person who confirmed this, because I realized that if I hold it double and I'm using the larger hook, it's not that bad. It's not bad to work with at all. And I had one more person who tried it after she saw mine, and she was like, you're right. It's so much easier to work with if you're holding it double and you're using that larger hook. So that's a good one. And homespun's fairly affordable for the amount of yardage that you get in those. And I still haven't tried homespun Thick and Quick. That's on my list because I haven't tried it yet, and that's a size 6. So on the list for me. But I have definitely turned into like the super bulky yarn queen, I guess, you know, because I don't want to use anything else. It's just so nice to be able to finish products so quickly. And for people who like the intricate patterns that take a really long time, I totally get it. Like that's, you know, there is definitely a challenge to it that when you get finished, it's like, oh my gosh, look at all of this wonderful work that I put in, and like seeing the finished item. And I feel like my patterns are usually what people go to as like the interim. So like they need a break from this pattern that's going to take them a month or 2 months, and they'll take a break, whip up a cardigan, you know, and then go back to their teeny tiny lace weight project, you know. But I really feel like, you know, just owning that niche and saying like, okay, I guess this is my life now, you know, has been really, really helpful in keeping me inspired and keeping me focused. Like, okay, does this really fit with the brand and kind of what I'm trying to do with my patterns? So it's made me really, really excited for this coming fall, you know, because I'm planning out some really cool patterns and some ideas that I've got. And one of those ideas, you'll have to let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments if you think that you'd be interested. But I have been toying around with the idea of doing an entire, I have a mosquito that is all over me right now. Give me just a second. I'm going to spray with bug spray. I'm still here, but I don't want to get bitten. So I've got to do a little bug spray. Okay, there we go. Now I'm bug sprayed. I didn't want to get eaten alive. So I am going to do a chunky collection. Well, of course it's going to be chunky, but it's going to be a single crochet collection. So with my focus on super, super beginner friendly patterns, I want to create a line of items, probably like a hat, a scarf, a cardigan, maybe a pullover sweater, only using single crochet stitches. So I just feel like it'd be interesting, you know. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen this fall. And thank you, Michelle said that my patterns are great as palette cleansers. That's a really great way to put it. I'm like what's the stuff that they put on the little sushi plate that you cleanse your palette with? I can't remember what it's called. This mosquito won't give up. I'm already sprayed with bug spray. I don't know what you want. You can't bite me. But yes, oh, thanks, Nancy. That would be awesome. So we'll see what happens. That's my goal. I have some ideas in mind. I know that I want to do a new cardigan. I know I want to do a new pullover style because I've only got one of those out now. I want them to be fully size inclusive. All of these will be extra small to 5X. I know I have a hat pattern in mind, like a pom-pom hat pattern. And thank you, Bev. I appreciate that. Looking forward to learning more. Yes. So I know that it's been an hour. I did want to let you guys know, if you're new to my channel and you have not joined into my lives before and you don't know much about me except for what I've been sharing with you, I did want to share the last part of my journey so far as a maker this year has been because of my husband, who is lovingly known by my little community as the Captain, or Captain Hook, because he got a 3D printer for Christmas last year. And ever since January, we have been releasing our own 3D printed ergonomic crochet hooks. So that was really also born out of the fact that I, have my own issues with arthritis and pain and all of that. And it's kind of difficult to find ergonomic crochet hooks that are in the larger size range, which is what I need, which is what I needed. And it's also hard to find, how when you purchase small crochet hooks, you have all these options. It's like 5 millimeter, 5.25, 5.5, 5.75, 6, so like there's all these in between sizes. But when you get up into the jumbo range, it's like 10, 12, 16, 20, you jump a lot. And for me, it's just as important for people to be able to match gauge. For me, using a size 16 hook and not being able to find a good range just a little below or a little above. So we decided to make our own hooks that are ergonomic and that also run we go from 10 millimeter, it's 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25. So we have the full spectrum, which will make it easier for people if you do like using jumbo yarn to play around with that sizing a little bit without having to jump all the way from like a 19 to a 15. You have those in between sizes. And I'll show you, just in case you haven't seen them, I did bring one of my hooks, just so you guys can see. But this is our, see if I can show that. There we go. And I don't know if it's focused or not, but that is our, this is a 12 millimeter. Yeah, 12 millimeter. This has got the little ergonomic handle, and they do stand up on their own. That little base does stand up, which is kind of cool, if you don't want your hook rolling away. But yeah, that's what we started making. And ever since then, we started growing that out to tools. So we actually have a toolbox in my Etsy shop now that's all the tools we make. So we make a little gauge square. I think I have 2 of them. Just wanted to be able to show you guys. Since this is my first live, I get to show all of my fun things. This is a gauge square. So it's a 4x4 square, which most of my patterns call for a 4x4 gauge swatch. And then the corner pieces, you can measure your hooks. So like it goes all the way from 10 to 25. So all the hook sizes we make, you could measure these. And if you have like mystery hooks, you know, because most of ours are now marked. We have marks on the bottom of ours, so you know what size it is. But you can measure your mystery hooks. And then we started making, just the past couple weeks, making lucets for making I-cord. So the captain started printing these, and he loves these. He thought these were like the coolest thing ever. So we have those. And then we also started making wraps per inch tools. So that was fun. That was actually a request from some of the people in my community, was for a wraps per inch tool. So this actually has my hooker tarot card on one side, and then the other side has the words that tell you the measurements. Like super bulky is 5 to 6 wraps, bulky is 7 wraps, RN is 8 wraps, worsted is 9. So like that gives you the measurements. But yeah, that's been so much fun. Like I said, our journey has been crazy, especially since COVID. Me going from only selling finished products to now being what I feel like I can actually call myself a pattern designer. Now, it took a little while to not feel like I was that whole imposter syndrome thing. But making the tools and making hooks, and it's just been crazy, but it's been wonderful and exciting. And like, you know, I feel like I'm doing what I wanted with this brand. I feel like the community is there, and it's been so supportive, not just of me, but of each other, you know, getting to see people actually make friends in the community. Feeling like my patterns are really empowering people to, you know, create things they didn't think that they could, or people who say, I just can't follow patterns, but, you know, being able to follow my patterns because they're so beginner friendly and have so many photos to guide them, and have some of them in some cases have video support. Trying to grow this YouTube page so that I'll have, you know, learn to crochet playlists, and really, really help people just go from the very beginning all the way to making their first sweater. And the other thing too is with the hooks. So like, we've already had a lot of people come back and say that our hooks have truly helped. And that's the goal. Like, everything that we make, we want it to have a purpose. We want it to mean something to people. We know that it's an investment. We're not cheap. I think that was something that we had to get over. We're not Amazon. You know, our hooks are an investment. They're expensive. They're, you know, the 3D printers are tough to maintain, and, you know, we designed everything ourselves. But, you know, all I have to do is look at the feedback from people who say that my patterns and my designs and our hooks have helped in a very meaningful way, that it's worth it, you know, and we can keep doing what we're doing. Let's see, Bev, need a gauge like that because yarn weights vary so widely. Yes. So the wraps per inch tool is great for that. And that is something that I need to start including in my patterns. I wanted to start including the wraps per inch measurement for the yarn that I use, to try to make it a little bit easier for people to truly know, okay, this says it's a size 6, but is it the same size 6 as the one that I used for the pattern? So that's one of my goals. And I'm just always trying to grow and add things that are helpful, and just make the experience easier and better. And, you know, that people will actually really enjoy making the patterns, and, you know, have fun. So, oh yes. And please do like and subscribe. If you're on here, I truly appreciate all of you joining in. I know it's been over an hour, so I will not keep you much longer. If you have any questions for me before I go, let me know in the comments. I'm going to hang out for a minute longer in case you have questions. But I will be going live on Instagram on Friday. I always do my crochet and chat live on Instagram on Fridays at noon. Noon is really just easy for me. That's probably when I'll be going live on here. Moving forward, I will go live every Tuesday here on YouTube. And we'll do tips, tricks, thoughts, you know, all the teas for Tuesday, just whatever it is that, you know, I've got happening. And I would love you guys' input. If there's something that you'd love me to cover on one of these lives, drop that in the comments too. I would love to know if there's things that you'd like me to chat about and talk about or cover. that's always wonderful to have that help if there's things you wanted to chat about. But I'm excited to grow this channel and have this community here. I also have a Facebook group. If you search Pink Sheep Design on Facebook, you can join my Facebook group. That might be in the description box as well. I know that all of my shop links are there. If you are interested in any of our tools or merchandise or any of that, those are in the description box. But yeah, so every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern time, I'll be here. And then again on Instagram every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. And if you guys participated in the DIY hook challenge that we did, the first one ever, we're super excited. We ended up with, I think we had 80 or so entries, but we ended up having over 40 of those people submit their final hooks. So not everyone submitted final hooks, but we had over 40 of the submitted entries. And so we are going through that judging process now. Me and the captain have a big challenge ahead of us too, because these hooks were amazing that people submitted. And so we are going to go live here on YouTube on, I think this Saturday. I am going to put a link. I'm going to do a pre-link. So if you're subscribed to my channel, you should be able to see once I post that, and you can set a reminder if you want to join in. If you guys have ever watched The Office and you remember the Dundee Award ceremonies, that's kind of what we're going for. We really want it to be fun. We are hoping that everyone that submitted a hook does show up, because we have some fun tricks up our sleeve. The overall winner is actually going to get a custom set of hooks from us. So we'll work with them to pick a color, to pick a coating, and we'll make them 5 hooks, 5 3D printed hooks in the sizes that they request. So that's our grand prize winner. But I have a feeling we're going to have some other things happening on that live. So if you guys want to join in, it should be really fun. We're excited about it. We still have to figure out exactly what we want to do, but I think it'll be worth joining in for. So I'll have that posted. But thank you guys again so much for joining in on my first ever YouTube live like this. I think it worked, so I'll have to do this. Like I said, every Tuesday I'll be here. Be sure to like and subscribe, like I said, to my channel, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.